look, the WNBA continues to get the kind of attention they shouldn't want. All right, again, Colin Cowherd is making a point to talk about the WNBA again. He does it now multiple times a week, but only when it comes to one player, or in this case, one player and what it is the rest of the league is doing to her.
The WNBA players were pointing fingers. They were saying people are sexist, the media is sexist, we're not being promoted, we're underappreciated. And then they get the golden goose and they don't like what it looks like.
Colin Cowherd just torched the Indiana Fever and lit a match under the entire WNBA while he was at it. His latest tirade? A blistering reaction to rumors that the team might actually trade Caitlin Clark. Yes, the same Caitlin Clark who's responsible for every sold-out seat, every viral clip, every reason anyone even remembers the WNBA right now. But of course, instead of protecting their star, the league might be plotting her exit. Why is the face of the league suddenly being treated like a problem to solve instead of the future to build? And what if Cowherd's the only one willing to say what everyone else is thinking? Main body.
A university professor in finance looked up the value of Caitlin Clark for the WNBA. This is insane. So this year, last season in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark was 26.5% of all economic activity as a rookie on the worst team in the league when she entered it. So now she has an 8-year, $128 million deal with Nike. So, you know, she's going to eat. Merchandise in the league went up off a rookie from a Midwest-based school on the worst team in the league, 234%.
That Caitlin Clark has become a leading source of content. It's now gotten to a point we have to laugh at it. Caitlin Clark finished 9th in player voting. In fact, she finished behind one of her own teammates in player voting for the All-Star game. The pettiness has no bounds. But it's interesting, for years, the WNBA players were pointing fingers. They were saying people are sexist, the media is sexist, we're not being promoted, we're underappreciated. And then they get the golden goose and they don't like what it looks like.
You could practically hear the sound of Cowherd slamming his mic on the desk when he unleashed his latest WNBA tirade. And make no mistake, this wasn't just a hot take. It was a heat-seeking missile. His target? The absurd idea floating around that Indiana might actually trade Caitlin Clark, the WNBA's meal ticket, media darling, and merch goddess. Cowherd, who's made it a recurring segment to expose the league's bizarre mistreatment of its own best thing, wasn't having it. He mocked the idea with the kind of disgust usually reserved for flat earthers and cold soup. This isn't Cowherd reaching for relevance. He's been locked in on this topic for weeks, maybe months, and for good reason. Clark has become the story, the needle mover, the only player whose every dribble trends on Twitter. Yet, instead of building a throne for her, the league keeps digging a ditch. Cowherd went straight for the hypocrisy, pointing out how the same WNBA that cried for more media coverage is now squinting under the spotlight and blaming the one who brought the camera crew. You begged for sold-out arenas and private flights, he mocked. Then you got Caitlin Clark and said, wait, no, not like that. And that's where the destruction begins, because he's not wrong. Clark's rookie campaign should be a coronation, not a Cold War. Instead, she's being benched during crucial moments, sidelined with suspicious strategy, and now reportedly on the block like a tradable widget. Cowherd didn't flinch. Trading her wouldn't just ruin Indiana, it would collapse the entire house of cards this league has been pretending is a pyramid. Harsh? Maybe. Accurate? Unfortunately, also yes. But we go any further first. Like this video if you think the refs are unfair to the Fever, comment if you disagree, and don't forget to subscribe.
She doesn't always get the consistent great star whistle. I think they're still kind of figuring out how to officiate her, right? Like I've said this for years when I covered Shaq and went to Shaq got fouled more than anybody I've ever seen. I mean, it was insane. People bounced off Shaq. Jokic complains constantly, like people are bouncing off me. She doesn't quite get as favorable a whistle as you think. So I think
neither does Steph too. That's the funny part. I'm not going to ignore, nor am I going to take my eyes off of what transpires with the WNBA over the next 2 weeks while Caitlin Clark is out with the quad strain.
Let's call it what it is. Trading Caitlin Clark would be the sports equivalent of deleting the internet because the Wi-Fi was too fast. We're talking about a rookie who single-handedly turned the WNBA into must-see TV, whose mere presence in a game spikes viewership like a stock after a celebrity endorsement. One professor even estimated that 12% of the league's total economic activity this year is tied to Clark. That's not a player, that's a walking GDP. And what's the league's brilliant plan? Package her up and send her off like a used jersey. Even whispering that idea is lunacy. She's not just the most recognizable face in the league, she's the whole draw. Her Nike deal, her jersey sales, her viral clips, every one of them screams momentum. You don't trade that, you bottle it, you market it, you build your damn league around it. But instead, the Fever's front office is floating trade rumors like it's strategy. The coach keeps sitting her like she's a backup with an attitude problem. And the players? Oh, we'll get to their vote in a second because that pettiness needs its own chapter. But make no mistake, trading Clark wouldn't just be dumb, it would be catastrophically, historically ESPN documentary dumb. The kind of move that makes fans throw their jerseys in the fireplace and switch to golf out of spite.
Players not high on Caitlin Clark. They can't help it. It's crazy. Caitlin Clark was named captain because she received the most fan votes, a record-setting 2.93 million, almost 2. And third in media voting, she was ninth. She was ninth in player voting.
Caitlin Clark obviously dominating the fan voting, more than I think 1.3 million votes, some sort of record. But when it comes to the players ranking her, she finished ninth among guards. Her peers ranked her ninth among guards. And I've listened and heard people say, she's missed 5 or 6 games this year. She's not shooting that high of a percentage in her last 4 or 5 games. It's been a struggle.
Fortunately, I am not surprised that the players ranked her so low. However, I do take it as a sign of disrespect.
Here's where the sabotage stops being subtle and starts becoming scripted. Caitlin Clark didn't just show up to ball, she showed up to shine. She entered the league with more momentum than any rookie in recent history, male or female. But instead of embracing that, the WNBA has treated her like an intruder. The minutes restrictions, the selective benchings, the system-fit excuses. This is not really about development. It's more about having discipline, but they just dress it up with fancy terms. And now, they've appointed her own personal nemesis as head coach. That's right, the same coach who once stood idly by while Clark got poked in the eye on the court like she was in a WWE audition reel. That woman is now in charge of her professional growth. This isn't just a coaching change, but a message. Tone it down, don't outshine, know your place. And if that wasn't enough, the All-Star voting numbers came in like a cherry on top of this disrespect Sunday. Fans ranked her, the media had her at. But the players, they put her at ninth, behind her own teammate. You don't need a PhD in drama to decode what's happening here. This isn't about basketball IQ or rookie learning curves. It's about ego, control, and a desperate attempt to reestablish a hierarchy that Clark's stardom blew to pieces. The league wanted growth, just not this much growth, not this fast, not her. So instead of riding the wave, they're trying to build a dam, and they've chosen her coach to be the one holding the hammer.
Let me tell you something right now. I'm not going to go to word hate. I'm not going to be out there like RG3 was saying that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark or other players hate Caitlin Clark. But I will say this. I don't think it's specific about Caitlin Clark. I think it's what Caitlin Clark represents. See, it's no fault of Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark balls. She balled at Iowa in college. She's balled since she's been in the NBA. She came into the league last year with no break whatsoever between the college game and the pro game and did her thing.
Let's talk about that ninth place player vote. Ninth, behind teammates, behind guards who couldn't draw a crowd if they gave away courtside iPhones. Caitlin Clark didn't lose that vote because of her game. She lost it because she committed the unpardonable sin of being more liked, more promoted, more marketable. The league's golden goose got feathered by jealousy, plain and petty. This is the same league that's been screaming, "We need support" for decades. Promote us. Back us like the NBA. Then Clark comes in, raises the ratings by millions, and suddenly it's radio silence. Or worse, open resentment dressed up as team-first culture. Players double-team her at half court, then act confused when she doesn't shoot 60%. They ice her out on court, then pretend it's strategy. Come on. If this was middle school, they'd be writing passive-aggressive notes and stealing her lunch. Dick Vitale said it best, it's jealousy. The kind that eats away at unity like termites in a wooden trophy case. Clark brought charter flights, national broadcasts, and pay raises. She didn't just make the pie bigger, she turned the pie into a 5-star buffet. And this is the thank you? A player vote that screams, "We don't like what you represent"? Forget votes. What she represents is relevance. And some folks would rather burn it down than admit that. If you're still with us, drop a comment. Is this sabotage or just stupidity? Because at this point, it's getting hard to tell the difference.
I mean, I'm hearing top college basketball coaches have retired Jay Wright or not interested Calipari. The top teams in the NBA, according to a story I read this morning, used profanity and hung up on the Knicks.
This not just a locker room, it feels more like a Cold War. A basketball standoff masquerading as a developmental plan. And right at the center of it is the newly installed coach, the same one who once oversaw Clark getting clobbered mid-game like she was in a Squid Game episode. That's the leader now? The one hired to unlock Caitlin Clark's game? Please. That's like hiring Cruella de Vil to manage a Dalmatian rescue. Clark isn't being guided, she's being managed, micro-stepped into irrelevance while the coach sings lullabies about versatility and fit. But let's call it what it is, shrinking the star, because nothing about the rotations makes sense. Clark's sitting while games spiral out of control. Random bench players are logging minutes like it's a participation trophy contest. Every time she gets subbed out, it feels less like rest and more like restraint. This isn't really coaching, but more like trying to keep things in check. And it's actually showing some results, just not the kind the league was hoping for. Fans are starting to catch on. They see the minutes vanish, the smiles fade, the numbers dip. They see the tension, the frustration, the intentional dimming. And the message is clear. Don't rise too fast. Don't fly too high. Because the league doesn't want a star. It wants a system. But if Clark walks, that system's collapsing under its own hypocrisy.
What she brings to the table. But people wanted to hate because why? You had a bunch of players in this league that watched this young white girl come along and take the league by storm. And they resented it because they saw the marketing prowess that she had. They ignored the fact that you got chartered flights because of this girl. They ignored the fact that ratings were going through the roof because of this girl. Instead, they resented it because they said, yo, we were doing stuff long before Caitlin Clark got here, and y'all wasn't paying attention then.
A lot of times we notice that the WNBA is resisting this golden goose and resisting this bump and this force of nature, which is Caitlin Clark. So we're going to dive deep into that. What's behind that? Is jealousy, envy, pettiness, all the above, more than that?
The WNBA keeps putting out press releases with glittery buzzwords and toothy smiles. But behind the curtain, it's pure political theater. Clark isn't just playing basketball. She's surviving bureaucratic ballet. She's being punished for popularity, targeted for talent, and left to carry a franchise while being told she's too heavy a lift. The league isn't just wasting her, but weaponizing her rise against her. And fans, they're not fooled. The optics are so bad, it's laughable. Ratings plummet when she's benched. Social media erupts when she's mistreated. Entire cities buy tickets just to see her shoot threes. But the league wants to pretend she's just another rookie. Not the engine, not the heartbeat. Just one player in a sea of equality. But the math doesn't lie, the money doesn't lie, and the fans sure as hell don't lie. Caitlin Clark isn't a threat to the league. She is the league right now. And trying to mute her impact won't create parity. It'll create apathy. Keep playing this game of denial, and don't be surprised when Clark takes her talents somewhere that actually knows how to handle them. Vegas, New York, Europe, pick a place. But when she leaves, don't cry foul. Just admit what we've all known from the start. The WNBA finally got what it asked for, and didn't know what to do with it. So, if you're wondering how to fumble a once-in-a-generation talent, this is your case study. Benched, boxed out, and betrayed. Caitlin Clark's not just playing basketball, she's navigating sabotage. And if the league isn't careful, she might just make her biggest move yet. Out. Hit like if you think the league's playing itself. Subscribe for more chaos, because something tells us this storm is just getting started.